Welcome back to the weekend with Anthony Opperman. As is a custom at this time, bringing Chris Dunnavant from the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries for our weekly wildlife conversation. This is the segment where we're going to give away 3 4-packs of tickets to the Fishing Expo coming up next weekend. But before we get to that, I've got to give Chris a hard time because, Chris, you went with LSU in the big game on Monday. Alabama ended up routing the Tigers 21-0. Buddy, I promise I'm never going to ask you again to pick a football game. We're going to stick to what you know and just talk fishing from here on out. I promise.
I think, Anthony, that's the best thing to do. I think fishing, that's my strength in my area. Let's just keep it on that. Or if we do ask football, people can just kind of pick the other team and, they might, be pretty good on that because I'm 0 for 2.
Well, with that in mind, let's do it right now. Let's give away those 3 4-packs of tickets to the Fishing Expo coming up next weekend. First 3 callers right now will win that 4-pack of tickets. And in addition, Chris, once they win their tickets and they come to the Expo, they can also visit the DGIF table and get an extra prize pack from the DGIF.
Absolutely. Come on by. Find us. We're right there kind of in the middle next to the boating area. And just come to the booth, seek me out. Or you can, if I'm not there, ask somebody, but we'll have a prize pack waiting for you that'll include a Virginia wildlife calendar.
So we're giving away that 4-pack of tickets right now. First 3 callers, 345-0910. Again, 345-0910, the number to call to get that 4-pack of tickets. First 3 callers will win 4 tickets to the Fishing Expo next weekend. And again, Chris, where's that going to be located at?
That's up at the Meadows Event Park up in Doswell. It's the King's Dominion exit. That's the best way to zero in on that. But come on up to the show and enjoy a time. And you can come. The winners will be able to come and just get their tickets right there at the show. And come on and check out our booth and get your prize pack.
And that's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, correct?
Yes, 3-day show.
Well, now that we've gotten that business taken care of, we'll go in depth about the Fishing Expo. But real quickly, who do we owe the thanks to for the 4-pack of tickets?
Oh, yeah, the guys at the show are great. My contact is Les Gray. He and his, I believe it's his brother. It's a family-run operation. They run these shows, and they're just so nice to work with. We've had a great relationship with them since they've taken the show over, and so really thanks go out to Les Gray and those folks at the show. They're happy to give those tickets away, so thanks to them.
345-0910. First 3 callers right now will win a 4-pack of tickets to the Fishing Expo next weekend. And again, on our show next weekend, we'll have a big preview segment, talk with Chris about some of the different highlights and things that you won't want to miss. And I know this is a big expo and there are a lot of things to cover, but we'll hit some of the highlights and definitely some of the high points of things that you're for sure going to want to check out while you're up there at the expo. Well, Chris, as we kind of do at this time in this segment, tell me about your last fishing trip. Obviously, an opportunity to go out with some more of your buddies.
I did. Actually, it was 4 of us in 2 boats. Went to Bugs Island Lake on Saturday for crappie fishing, and had a great time. The fishing, I think the cold front the week before really lowered the water temperature. It wasn't. We were expecting 100 fish a day minimum. That's kind of the bar for crappie fishing, what you want to see. And I think our boat, we probably caught 40. I'm not sure what the other boat, what they caught, but we still had a great time. And actually, I caught a lot of variety. I'm crappie fishing with little small hair jigs, but I caught a nice striper, 22-inch striper. Caught some white bass, caught some bluegills, caught 4 largemouth, including a nice 3-pounder. I mean, just had a lot of variety, had a good time. The wind got up a little bit, but that didn't really hurt us too bad. But it was interesting when you're fishing 20 foot of water, 18 foot of water with 4-pound line and a 16th ounce or 3/32 ounce jig, which is really light, and you're trying to get that jig to go down into that 18 foot of water next to that brush pile. You had to cast way past the brush pile just to allow it to drift down into the brush pile, the right location. So the wind made it interesting, but it was a good trip. We had a good day.
A couple of questions for you from this. First and foremost, is there any reason that you could surmise as to maybe why you guys didn't catch as many as you were expecting to?
I think, to some degree, it's a mystery. We fished a lot of different types of cover. We fished docks, we fished brush piles, we fished bridge pilings, we fished marinas, we fished water that was stained, we fished clear water, and it seemed consistent all the way around that the bite was a little off. Some of these brush piles were only getting little small fish to bite. And so, to some degree, some of that is just a mystery. A lot of people can, and actually my friend Frank and I were talking about this, that a lot of times we come up with reasons, and we all of a sudden become really these experts at, fish and everything when things aren't going right, or when they are going right especially. But really it comes down to it. Are they biting or not? And there are some days when no matter what, the bite is just off. They're just closed-mouthed. They're not really eating it very well. And so I'm not sure, but I do know that we fished hard all day. We tried a variety of things. And I know I was fishing with a great angler. And so we were on the right stuff and around the right types of cover and fishing. But I think they had been down there recently and before that heavy cold front, and the fish were just really biting around the docks, and they were just everywhere. And that day when we fished, we'd go and fish these docks, and there was just nothing. You can tell if there were fish around there, we would have gotten bit. But things change, and probably maybe as the weather stabilizes a bit, that you could go down there next weekend and do really well. Just one of those things.
Joined by Chris Dunnavant from the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, our weekly wildlife conversation here on the Weekend with Anthony Opperman. And Chris, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about from your last fishing story was the fact that you were fishing for crappie, but it sounded like you caught several bass as well. Is there a particular reason for that?
Well, I think when we're fishing, we primarily caught those bass around I caught some on docks and some on brush piles. And, that's just the right cover those fish want to be on. It's the water's cooled down. There's probably very few bass up there on the banks. And we're fishing deeper for crappie, or fishing kind of off. Only really during the spawn will you find crappie on the bank. You're going to have to be fishing deeper water off the shore, or at least something that has like a dock that hangs over 15, 20 foot of water, something like that. And so we're fishing those deeper areas, fishing around cover, and we're fishing around bait. That's another thing. Bait was present everywhere we were at. And so you got all the right scenario there. So the bass are going to be there too, and the stripers and the white bass and the bluegills. It's when you're catching those other fish, you're in the right area. And those crappie are probably down there. They're just not biting. But despite the tough day, really, I think the more I fish and as I go on, you really start to even see what's really important. And I find that I enjoy more and more these fishing days, even if it's tough. But time with my friends, time in the boat. I mean, that's really a big part of fishing. I know in this show we talk a lot about techniques and catching fish, but really having a good quality day and spending time with people that you are close friends with, that's really what it's about. And you can have, you think about it, you're with somebody for 8 or 10 hours fishing, and you can have, some really good conversations, things that typically you don't get to talk about on an everyday basis. So it's really one of the neat aspects of fishing is spending time with friends and family and in the outdoors. It's beautiful out there. And so, that was really a big part of the fun. It was 4 of us. We would collaborate during the day and talk on the phone or meet up occasionally. Sometimes we fished brush piles within sight of each other, able to bounce off what was going on, but also just have a good time talking. We went to breakfast before, went to dinner afterwards. Just a fun day all around, and that's a big part of fishing.
That's a really good point. You're joined by Chris Dunnavant from the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. And Chris, last show we were talking about how the weather was unseasonably warm. Last weekend we saw temperatures close to 70 degrees in January, which is phenomenal. This weekend, though, a little bit back down to earth in that regard,
right,
and back to normal. Temperatures maybe in the low 40s if we're lucky. for somebody like me who is not grown a thick enough skin yet to be able to go outside and fish, how can I get my fishing fix even though I really don't want to be outside, Nick?
Yeah, it's the weather's going to be cold this weekend, and I think you can still fish when it's in the 40s, but I do look at the wind. I know if the wind is blowing 20, 30 miles an hour, that's probably a day I'm going to say, you know what, I may not want to go out. It's 40 degrees. It's going to be 20-some degrees at nighttime. Really cold temperatures. The weather's tough. Might be a weekend to stay home. And it's a good weekend to get your tackle straight in order. But this time of year, what's also neat is that typically there are some fishing shows that run year-round, but here in January there's typically a lot of shows begin their season. And so there are, with the Outdoor Channel and NBC Sports Network, those are two channels that have it's formerly Versus. They have tons of fishing shows. So you can just set your DVR throughout the week and just load up. You can just sit there and get all the fishing, action you want right there on your screen and really enjoy some great fishing shows. And I'll tell you, it's not something to be dismissed. You really can learn a lot. I know for me, I learn a lot by watching others do things. And you're able to see the latest techniques and equipment. You see somebody doing it and performing that technique the right way, and you can really gain a lot of information, especially the shows with the tournaments. They run typically year-round because they run based on the schedule of the tournaments. But you really can learn a lot by watching those pros do things. You really, it would take you days of trips and weeks of trips to figure that out, but you can watch it being done the right way and be up to speed really quickly.
Joined by Chris Dunnavant for the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, our weekly wildlife conversation here on the weekend with Anthony Opperman. And Chris, again, running short on time, but definitely appreciate you setting up with Les the prize packs, and we look forward to seeing all those guests out of the Fishing Expo next weekend, and really looking forward to our conversation next weekend to be able to preview that Fishing Expo. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're going to have talking about the show, on the show, and going to go be at the show. So it's going to be it's always a fun weekend in the Richmond area to have this show. It's a great time to see the latest tackle, to get, there's tackle shops from all over, so you can get some baits that you may not normally see. Also, the pros are there, all the latest boats, and then all the people that you haven't maybe seen in a year, and you get the chance to catch up with folks and talk about fishing and talk about what's going on in their lives. So it's a lot of fun.
And even if you didn't get an opportunity to win one of those 4-pack of tickets earlier this segment, you can still make it out to the show. It's economical, it's affordable, and definitely worth the investment.
Absolutely, it's $8 for adults, and once you come, if you come on Friday or Saturday, you can come back on the next day. The pass is good for the whole weekend. So it's one-time purchase, and you're in for the whole time.
Chris, as always, a lot of fun. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll catch up next weekend.
Thanks, Anthony. Sounds good.
And Chris Dunnavant from the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, a weekly wildlife conversation here on the weekend with Anthony Opperman. When we return, I've got your game plan for the weekend. Tell you where to catch that divisional round action of the NFL playoffs. A lot of interesting games and matchups coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that when we come back here on the weekend with Anthony Opperman.
The show is almost over, but the weekend is just getting started. More of The Weekend with Anthony Opperman is next on Sports Radio 910.